It's a Saturday morning in 1979. The apartment is quiet. Not peaceful quiet, empty quiet. The kind that has a texture to it, like a room that's been holding its breath too long. A boy, maybe 9, maybe 10, is standing in the kitchen. He's making his own breakfast, not because someone taught him how, because no one is there to do it for him. His mother worked the late shift. His father might be around somewhere. It's hard to say. The television in the other room is on, tuned to a channel nobody chose, filling the space with sound so the silence doesn't feel quite so large. He cracks the egg wrong the first time, gets shell in the pan, picks it out with his fingers. Tries again. He cracks the egg wrong the first time, gets shell in the pan, picks it out with his fingers, tries again. Nobody is watching. Nobody is grading him. Nobody is going to tell him he did it right. So he just does it. Maybe that was you. Maybe it wasn't a kitchen in 1979. Maybe it was a different year, a different apartment, a different kind of absence. But you know that feeling, that particular mixture of loneliness and capability that you learned so early you don't even remember learning it. It just became part of how you... Not a broken man, not a damaged man, though some people, looking from the outside, might use those words. This is a video about the man who built himself from whatever materials were left lying around. The man who figured things out, not because he was gifted, but because there was no one else to figure them out. The man who stopped waiting for permission so... He's usually somewhere between 40 and 65 now. He carries himself with a certain quietness that some people read as coldness. He doesn't explain himself often. He doesn't feel the need to. He's been making his own decisions since before most kids knew what a decision was, and something in him just never stopped. You've probably met this man. You might work beside him. You might be him. He's the one who shows up early and stays late, not for recognition. He stopped expecting that a long time ago, but because finishing things matters to him in a way he couldn't fully explain and wouldn't try to. He fixes what's broken. He learns what he needs to learn. He doesn't make a production of it. And if you asked him who taught him to be like this, he might pause for a long moment. Then he'd probably say, nobody, really. And he'd mean it as a fact, not a complaint. That pause, that absence of bitterness, is the thing worth examining. Because the men who raised themselves didn't come out the other side broken. Many of them came out extraordinary. But let's slow down here, because before we talk about what these men became, we need to understand what shaped them and why it happened to an entire generation at once. Generation X, born roughly between 1965 and 1980. The last generation to grow up before the internet. The first generation to grow up after the social contract between parents and children quietly broke down. The divorce rate in America doubled between 1960 and 1980. Women entered the workforce in historic numbers, which was progress, real progress, but nobody built the infrastructure to support it. Daycare was expensive. After-school programs were scarce. And so millions of children came home to empty houses, let themselves in with keys worn around their necks like small, practical pieces of jewelry, and learned the first lesson that would define them. You are responsible for yourself, not as a philosophy, not as a motivational poster, as a daily, lived, unglamorous fact. These were the Latchkey kids, and the boys especially, because boys in that era were handed independence the way other generations were handed chores, learned to fill silence with competence. If something broke, you figured out how to fix it. If you were hungry, you figured out how to eat. If you were scared, you figured out how to not show it, because showing it didn't seem to produce results. There's a study from the University of Michigan that tracked children who spent significant time in self-care, alone at home, during their formative years. What they found was nuanced. These children did develop stronger problem-solving skills and a higher tolerance for ambiguity, but they also developed something harder to measure, a deep, almost cellular distrust of dependence.
Because the man who doesn't need approval isn't the same as the man who doesn't want connection. Those two things look identical from the outside. From the inside, they're completely different rooms.